Продовжуємо роботу в українському кризовому медіа-центрі.
We continue our work at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Now the floor is given to Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesperson on ATO-related issues. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's briefing, we start with good news. During the last 24 hours, in the anti-terror operation zone, in the result of the military actions, no Ukrainian serviceman was killed or wounded. At the same time, Russian occupation forces continued to deliver shelling at the positions of Ukrainian armed forces, and during dark hours, the militants opened fire with the use of weapons that are banned by the Minsk agreements. Now, information in more detail. The Lugansk sector, at about 5 in the morning, the enemy shelled our positions near Novolugansk using 120mm mortars, launching 11 mines. And in the evening, the enemy shelled twice our positions near Lugansk, this time with the use of mortars of 82mm of caliber. Moreover, during the day, illegal armed groups continued to shell positions of Ukrainian armed forces in the region of Travneva, Lobacheva, Luganska, Nova Oleksandrivka, and Stanitsa Luganska. The enemy used grenade launcher fire, small arms. In 3 instances, Ukrainian units had to suppress the enemy by precision fire with the use of weapons that are not prohibited by the Minsk agreements. During the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector, the enemy violated ceasefire 11 times. The Donetsk sector, the situation was hotter. During the last 24 hours, Russian occupation forces 6 times opened fire at our strong points near Avdiivka and 4 times in the region of Shirokina, including with the use of mortars of different caliber. After 2 a.m. for an hour, the enemy shelled with the use of mortars, IVF weaponry, and anti-aircraft gun Ukrainian positions near Starognativka. In the morning, near Shirokina, the enemy opened fire with the use of tank and anti-tank missile complex. Moreover, the enemy continued shelling of Ukrainian positions near Gnutova and Bogdanivka. This time, the enemy didn't use heavy weapons and delivered fire with the use of grenade launchers and small arms. And each time, Ukrainian forces rigidly stopped the enemy with the use of large caliber machine guns, grenade launchers, and service infantry weapons. And at about 9, the enemy showed real face of the defenders of the Russian world by delivering mortar fire near Vodyane, and during the last 24 hours, the enemy delivered 27 precision shellings of the armed forces of Ukraine position. In 16 instances, Ukrainian forces returned fire. According to information provided by main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, with the increase in the intensity of military training in so-called 1st and 2nd Army Corps, Russian occupation forces commanders intensified information and psychological measures aimed at forming anti-Ukrainian sentiments among the residents of occupied Donbass. Via local mass media, they spread disinformation and provocative announcements about the plans of ATO forces to intensify the military actions in the nearest future, and in this way they try to create panic among local population and to use it to justify shelling of ATO positions. And over the last week, military sappers in the region of ATO cleared from mines 9 kilometers of routes and roads and about 8 hectares of land, deactivating about 500 explosive objects. On the whole, from the start of ATO engineering sapper detachments of the armed forces of Ukraine deactivated more than 175,000 mine and explosive objects and cleared cleared from explosive objects more than 1,520 kilometers of road and 3,576 hectares of land in Donetsk and Lugansk oblasts. In the region of ATO, the servicemen of Group of Civil and Military Cooperation Svetlodarsk jointly with officers of JCCC and also pyrotechnic units of State Emergency Service of Ukraine of Bakhmut town recorded consequences of mortar shellings delivered by the militants at the residential quarters of Trandeva and handed over to the residents a film roll for temporary repair of the roofs of the buildings.
On the occasion of the Ukraine's Armed Forces Day, the Civil Military Cooperation Group Kalinova brought to the military men near Nevelsk, опытно the humanitarian aid, 60 kilograms of foodstuff and 450 square meters of polyethylene film. According to the information of Chief Department of Communications and Information Systems, the procedure of purchase of radio communication sets was carried out in strict compliance with the applicable legislation. The procurement was preceded by research comparative testing based on the lessons learned by the Ukrainian Armed Forces during the ATO operation. By the findings of the testing, the radio communications sets which are best adapted to local environment and compliant with the requirements of the Armed Forces of Ukraine are the radio broadcasting sets produced by Aselsan company. According to the common practices, adaptation of the fixtures of this equipment will be conducted without spending of additional funds by state and private enterprises. Thank you.